Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Trident Talks. I'm Josh, the recruitment director here at Trident, and today very pleased to be joined by Karla Reffold, the COO of Orpheus. Hey Karla.
Hi.
So Karla, for those that don't know you, and I know it's very few because you're very well known in the cybersecurity industry, who are you? Tell us about your background.
So I think I'm best known in the industry as having founded BeecherMadden, grew BeecherMadden, sold it a few years ago, stayed on and helped us build out American arm. And then about 6 months ago now, I moved out of recruitment and joined Orpheus as their COO, as they're going through some similar growth to what we had at BeecherMadden.
Nice. And you also do a hell of a lot of stuff outside of your full-time role of COO?
Yes, lots of industry stuff, writing for Forbes, working with people in the industry, and lots of talking about diversity within the industry, which I've talked about for quite a few years, and it's something I'm really passionate about.
Awesome. And that is why you are here today. You are right, big talking point, and it's a very important topic that we need to discuss and address. And the reason why we really wanted to have you on is to understand and just to talk about how do you think as recruiters, and especially recruitment owners, how do we affect or improve the diversity within the industry at our level? So kind of throughout the hiring process and consulting with our clients really, because there's a lot of it I know that we can't affect and we can come on to that in a bit, but I really want to kind of dig deep really into how do we as recruiters throughout the process improve diversity and be a little bit more conscious about it and be kind of at the forefront of our minds when we are headhunting. So I suppose let's start right at the beginning of BeecherMadden, and before you kind of left really 6 months ago, how did you see it evolve? Let's talk there first. Have you seen it really kind of become, I suppose it's obviously now widely spoken about, but have you seen it kind of improve and be widely discussed?
Yeah, I mean, when I started BeecherMadden, cybersecurity departments were only just starting to grow. They might still have been one or two people. So talking about diversity within the industry wasn't even a thing, because it was just about talking about getting anybody that could do cyber and had any idea what it is. And then I started to see it as a problem or something I was interested in, probably about 2014. And what I did at that time was did some research on what were our female candidates getting paid versus our male candidates, really just assuming I would write a blog about how women were underpaid like they were in every industry. And what was really interesting was all our female candidates were getting job offers at a higher rate than the male candidates with comparable experience. And that has sort of led me each year to do kind of similar research around, is that still happening? Why? What do female candidates want? But what I've seen from the client side is clients actively now, a few years ago, they were saying it was important. Now they're saying it is the most important thing. You know, we want all female shortlists, or we need to get to 50-50. Yeah. So it's really evolved. And I thought it was going to get old and boring and people would figure we've kind of solved this problem, but people still want to talk about it all the time.
What were your conclusions or summaries? Why would that? That's quite I don't think you'd have assumed to find that as the conclusion. Like, what did you get to the kind of bottom of why?
Yeah, people are always really surprised, mostly because we just don't go and look at it, right? And I think there are two things. So I think one of the things is that supply and demand. There's not enough women. Companies want to hire women. And I think that's a good reason why women tend to get more job offers and they get them quicker. But what I think around why they get paid more is they tend to come from different backgrounds. So they probably don't have a computer science degree and they've only worked in IT. They often come into cyber from project management or risk management or bizarre routes like mine from HR, right? So they bring different skill sets, and that's why I think they get paid more and are worth more.
Yeah, very interesting. So fast forward to the modern day. You are right. It's become as a recruiter on the receiving end of like picking up a vacancy, for example, from a client. It's without doubt now. It's a conversation every time we discuss a new role. So how do you think as recruiters, and obviously we'll discuss it, but how do we affect that and improve the diversity? And I'm not just talking about gender. We could talk about race, location of where people are based as well, and just generally diverse workforces. How do we improve that as recruiters?
Well, I think it's really lazy if companies want to push this problem to the recruiter, because a lot of them do. And, we went to a recruiter, told them to find the female candidates. They didn't find them. It's their fault, not ours. Well, actually, what has the company done about their practices and their own image to be attractive to those type of candidates? But I think what the main thing we can do, because we can't change who's in the industry, we can't change what candidates are there. Can't change how the end client recruits. We can advise them, but we can't change it. The main thing we can do, I think, is educate them. So the research that you guys have done, your salary survey, research like I've done around, well, what do female candidates in cyber want? How do they feel? Most women are shocked when I say that they should be earning or may well get paid more, because they don't feel like they do. When you look at the perception, they really feel underpaid. So how can we tell clients about that and then educate them so that they can do something a bit different?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like if you are a client or an organization, it's also about promoting like your workplace policies. So if you think, how are you promoting things like paternity and maternity leave that is competitive with like the public sector, for example, right? Everybody knows you work for the public sector, you're probably going to get 100% pay for 6 months, right? And then probably 50% for 6 months, depending on where you work. So it's about also promoting and I suppose encouraging people to apply that potentially are maybe looking at setting up a family soon, or you're going to have a wider pool of talent that's going to apply for your role. So if you are a company that's well known for, I don't know, like if you're a consultancy and you have really high utilization rates on site, then you're not really going to attract people who potentially do want to have a kid soon or want a better work-life balance. So it's about them also promoting it externally that, hey, this is the kind of policies and like the HR thing we put in place recently, just to promote a better working environment, I think.
Yeah, and work-life balance, flexible working is a really difficult issue because we tend to associate it with women who want to have children. Well, actually, what about promoting this to dads? We can't have equality at work if we don't have it at home. So get more dads to take that time. And then you hear from people that don't have kids that feel frustrated that their colleagues who have chosen to have children get more flexibility than they do when, they have their own lives. So I think the future of this is really around flexible working for everybody. And that then stops it being a woman issue as well. I don't have to pretend I'm going to the doctors when really I'm going to my kid's sports day because I feel awkward about highlighting the fact that I'm a parent, if actually the guys around me are doing the same thing. So, and women, flexible working tends to be more important to women. So when I've done research in the past, men and women at pretty much the same rate say career progression is the most important thing to them when moving jobs. But women at a far greater rate than men say flexible working is the next most important thing. Men say salary, women say flexibility. So actually putting in some flexibility and making it fair and feel easy to do is really important. You'll probably see it as well. You'll ask about flexible working in that recruitment process and they'll say, yeah, we have it, right candidate, whatever. But what is it? Like, what does that mean? Do they have to request it? Is it automatic? Does everyone take it? Like actually giving you that detail at the start could really help you get better candidates for your client.
I think also, especially in the pandemic we're in, where everybody's working remotely, it's a lot of companies don't know. So it's very hard to put like a tangible, you get 3 days from home, that's in concrete. You come into work Monday, Friday when we have normality, or your flexible working hours, like if you want to pick the kids up from school or you want to take the afternoon off to take to the zoo, whatever you want to do, then that's fine. You've got to put it on a system, or actually no, just let your boss know and he or she's really cool about it, and as long as your work's covered. Like it's kind of like when we ask the question, what is your flexible working like? Because you say you are flexible, then it's kind of like, well, we can kind of support and we I don't know, people, there's just no like tangible, this is like the set kind of process that we have, because it is so hard to put like days, hours, a process, I think, in play. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And the other thing that comes back to is like the leadership in cyber teams. So there's a few organizations out there in cyber, they do have 50-50 gender split, but they don't tend to have it at the leadership level. And so if actually you're not showcasing that throughout your recruitment process or living it, then it's not real, it's just words. So you can't expect people to take it and be attracted by it if you're not showcasing that. And that's where you see women in this industry working so much harder, I think, than the men. How many women do you know that are out there talking about this issue? And most men are showing up and doing their jobs, and that's it. The women are taking on all these extra responsibilities because we know we have to do that. We have to showcase these examples if we're going to attract more women into the industry.
Yeah, and I think also this is something that recruiters and companies can affect, is like at grassroots level. So how do you get more females into the industry at entry level? And it doesn't have to be like, the old kind of saying of, well, girls play with Barbies and boys play on computer games, and like that's just the way it is. But then you look at like what your first kind of comment on here was, well, actually some women are actually paid more because they have a real good diverse background. It's not your traditional route, so that's not a bad thing at all. So at grassroots level, there has to be more to be done by recruiters can do it. And we're looking at in a moment about partnering with universities and schools and just going and give talks and educate and actually say this is actually a career for everybody, no matter race, creed, gender, it doesn't matter, or what location you were in. So more needs to be done around just awareness, because awareness is free. So and the more people that talk about it, and not just females, like you said, making the conscious effort to talk about it, I think the better it'll be. Also, I think as recruiters, something that we can really affect or kind of change and encourage companies to change in the hiring process is anonymous CVs. It still baffles me as to why this isn't a set standard across the board, unless there's a reason potentially where, I don't know, the hiring manager might know someone who's applied, then you've got bias or whatnot. But it doesn't make sense to me why every company doesn't enforce anonymous applications. Just take the names off CVs and you completely remove all unconscious bias.
Yeah, and I think it's just, it can be hard to do, right? You've got to change your systems and you've got to change your process, and companies don't want to do it. But You're right, absolutely makes a difference. Like all the evidence says taking names off CVs makes a difference.
Yeah, just a little bit more admin. Yeah, we do it with a few companies at the moment, and it is a bit more admin because we have to send CVs in the transparent CVs to HR or internal recruitment teams, and then they have to anonymize it their end. So I do understand, but it'd be interesting because we're running a couple of demos with a proof of concept with clients at the moment to see how it works over not just one sort of hiring process, but kind of 3, 4, 5, 6, and see what the results are. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Do you think there'll ever be a 50-50 split between male and female in cybersecurity?
Maybe. Some companies are there already.
Yep.
So it is possible. But at the moment, the industry isn't 50-50. So not every company can be at 50-50 when the industry isn't there. And I think if companies are really struggling to get women into process, let alone hire them, then maybe they need to think about, what roles are they really pushing on? If there's a role like pen testers in the industry, far fewer women that are pen testers than there are women in other roles in GRC, for instance. So maybe make your split up where the women are, and maybe look at, is this a role where you can train somebody into the role? Can you take somebody who understands your business but give them those skills? And that isn't possible for every company of every size. But if it is possible, then it is something companies should be thinking about, rather than just saying, hey, this is now Josh's problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we spent 3 months trying to find something that doesn't exist, or agreed. We're doing some research at the moment, which is all around contractors in the marketplace. So there's I think there's an even larger disproportion of females to males in the contract world. And so we're just trying to work out now, is there a reason why, is there an actual specific reason why, or is it just because it's quite an infant market and it takes time to kind of sort of catch up, I suppose, to where the permanent market is. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the findings are, especially for the contract market.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know. When I started my career, I did business continuity and crisis management, and I would say there was a pretty equal split of female to male contractors there. So it's not about contracting itself, but there must be some other reason why there's that disparity.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else you'd like to discuss around, I suppose, improving diversity in the workplace?
I mean, so much. I could probably talk to you all morning about diversity. And I think the main thing for me is I think we actually have an opportunity now, like not just in cyber, but in society in general, to change how workplace diversity works. We've all worked from home. We've all shown that actually it doesn't matter if you're working at 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. or what hours or where you are, or if you're doing it around your kids, like we actually have a chance to then go back to the workplace, but change how we're doing things. And I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, and I think that'll be enabled as well by technology. So enabling us to work remotely will then have knock-on effects down the line for diversity, and flexible working is probably, it probably is the number one motivator or key part, I think, of this whole topic of conversation to enable us to get a fairer proportion. Yeah, I agree. How are you finding it? Obviously now Orpheus, right? Being and I'm going to go off a little bit of a tangent. In a typical, I don't know if are you technically still a cybersecurity startup? You're not, are you? In terms of maturity.
I mean, I would say we're more at the scale up stage. Yeah.
Do you, so I know you typically hire at intern level as well, and you try and obviously you train within, and learning and development is really key there. Do you have the same proportion of, do you see the diversity better at intern level?
Yeah, I think I have to check on the numbers, but I would say the last 3 or 4 interns we've hired have all been female. So we have actually a really nice gender split in the team.
Nice. That's promising, right? That just shows there is intent in the marketplace. And do you think that's encouraged because they have someone at C-level like yourself on the, and it helps to see that that's an inspiration for people joining that company, as opposed to having an organization, especially a smaller company, all male dominant C-suite?
Well, obviously, I would like to think it's all about me, but
that's what I was getting at.
I don't know. We're seeing a lot of female intern candidates kind of come out of those courses, so they're obviously all studying, and there's a lot to choose from. And you know what kind of strikes me time and time again is always the female candidates that come to the interviews better prepared. They always seem to have more activities going on outside of just their studies. And, you know, I think that's what's crazy to me, that I think the women that come into this industry are really, really qualified. And to not have that diversity as you kind of go up the chain just shows there is a problem somewhere down the line.
Yeah, interesting. So what you're saying is the women are coming for the men, and we've got to be careful and stop getting lazy and not preparing. That's an expectation culture that the men have created for themselves. And if they're not careful, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. I think that's a whole topic and we can go for hours about that mid to senior level management as to what is going wrong, especially at FTSE level. And I read an article earlier, which was about diversity in terms of like the BAME community not being represented. There's no CEOs of any FTSE 100 who is represented from the BAME community. So yeah.
And this last year, you know, it's made me kind of excited for how that can change again. You know, it's the first time in the last year where, you know, I've felt I need to speak out about race and how we can improve that, and, you know, say that it's something that is important to me. And I've never had the confidence to do that before, because obviously it's not my experience. So I think if we're all seeing that change and we're all feeling that and we all want to make change, then that's a really exciting time.
Yeah, it's very, very positive. I completely agree with you. And it's just more widely spoken about, and everyone could be more transparent about it and not feel guilty for speaking up about something that might not directly affect them. I think that's a really key point, actually. Is there anything as recruiters we can do to, other than the points we discussed, educate our clients? Is there anything that because yes, it's all well and good providing stats and facts around the industry. Is that all we can do right now?
I think it's the only thing we can do that actually has an effect. You know, you can't go into a client and force them to anonymize CVs or force them to change their work-life balance policies. You know, we can go into schools and we can go into universities and educate girls and, you know, people around what cyber is, not just girls, but, you know, we've got a talent shortage, right? We need people in general. But that's a long-term solution, you know, that it really is for me about kind of awareness of people who are already in the workplace. You know, you have so many women that want to come back to work after a career break, maybe having children, or maybe it's even older people that have taken time out to care for relatives or whatever it is. You know, actually getting those people to come into cyber is one way we can solve our talent shortage much, much quicker. Yeah,
totally agree with you. I think, like you said, it's a topic we can talk for hours about, and but what I find very comforting is that I find a lot of confidence in that it's changing. People are talking about it. Even look at you guys at Orpheus, the rate of or the ratio is so much better than what it used to be. And I think it will continue in that way until it will be where's the diversity? There's not enough men in the industry because we've all been lazy and not prepared for our interviews.
Do you know what? If we get there in my lifetime, I will love that. You know, I think this year as well, I've seen loads of dads say they like being at home more. So let's keep them at home and let's have a bit more equality in the workplace.
Absolutely. Karla, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Cheers.